Okay, I redrew my organization chart just because the last one was so messy. And I've got two kind of labeled relationships up there. I've got number A, which is down here, and that's just where I got someone in a department talking to somebody in another department. And then I've got relationship B, where it's like I'm right here. I've got someone under me talking to someone who's over me. Okay? And I wanted to just talk about a few things related to that. And I think this will come up again in this course, but I just, while we're on this subject, I want to talk about. Now, in relationship A, as we said before we broke, do I mind those people talking? I never mind people talking at all, as long as they're doing it the right way. Okay? What I don't want is the two of them changing a policy on their own, or almost worse than changing a policy on their own, I do not want this person making like special accommodations for this person that is between them that nobody else knows about. Okay? And that's why we really, that's maybe another reason why we're talking about relationships in the organization as opposed to relationships in the body. I want this person here that works for me providing, like I would say, maybe a level of service according to policy. Okay? So like, again, my office, my department does certain things for other departments, and I want people in my department doing for other departments what we have defined for those other departments. I do not want them taking the liberty to go beyond that. If another department needs something done, there's a venue for them to communicate to us that they want us to increase the level of service, but it's not by going to someone in my department, developing a friendship with them, and getting them to do favors. Okay? This happened, you remember, I don't know if you were in the office, Taya, this happened some months ago. There was a certain vendor that we worked with. And my policy with our vendors is that we mail checks out. The reason why I have that policy is because I don't want the traffic in the office and the labor it generates for someone to come and pick up a check. Is the check ready yet? No, it'll be ready. When will it be ready? We'll come back in an hour. Oh, can I come back in half an hour? I don't want all that. I can understand we could do that, but we've just made a decision. We don't want to operate on that level. So a certain vendor, for whatever reason, he told me one day, I told him, this check will be produced tomorrow, and I'll pick it up, on such and such a day. And this is what he said to me. I said to him, no, don't we mail checks out? And he said back to me, no, there's people in your department who love me and will give me this check if I come pick it up, So we had a little department meeting, and it's like, folks, it is not between you loving somebody else. Like again, what's the difference? We get out of fourth tier to this chart, right? Okay, let's go back up. All right, we're heading up here. That's where I wanted to get to. Okay, love. Okay, I do things out of love. Over here, I do things out of policy with a heart of love, right? Okay, now we switch back down. See, this is getting more interesting as time goes on here. Like, what's love got to do with it, right? Okay, has nothing to do with it. Oh, thank you for doing this. I am doing my job here, okay? I must do this because this is the commitment and agreement I have with my boss and with my department. This is what I do. If you appreciate the heart of love behind it, I receive those thanks and you're welcome. And if you're thanking me for being efficient or for doing my job and helping the organization, I receive that. But if you think I'm doing you a favor, I am not doing you a favor, okay? And now, get this. This is important. If you are frustrated in your job because of the service that my department is unable to give you, and that frustration has forced you to work around the policy and to find a person in the department who feels sorry for you and realizes the dysfunction and is willing to bypass policy just to help you get something done, that should be a flashing red light. We are not calling you a bad person, okay? We understand all you're trying to do is your job, and you're having trouble doing it, and you've had to work it just to be able to do your job. My gosh, we got to have a meeting right away. You go to your boss, I'll go to my boss, we'll have a meeting of the minds, and if it's important for the organization to go forward, for my office to provide you with the service that you're getting behind my back right now, I'm under authority. I will change. I have no personal agenda here. I've got 24 hours in a day. I will do whatever my boss tells me to do. And if we need to do this, we'll do it. If I need more employees, if I need to get something else off my desk so I can do this, we can have this conversation. But when you do what you're doing and it becomes a known way of getting things done, if you talk to so-and-so in Pastor Taggart's office, she's doing this for me because the policy doesn't make sense. She'll do it for you also. That is a dysfunctional organization that over time will become hell to work in as those types of relationships, replicate themselves. And if you don't believe me, ask someone who's lived under communism in the Soviet Union, and this is how things, along with bribes, this is how the only way anything gets done, right? They pretend to pay us, we pretend to work, right? I read Alexander Solzhenitsyn's book a long time ago, and it talked about this whole chain of supply from a logging, where they were cutting down the logs till they were sending them to the sawmill, to where they were going out to the end customers, and at each step of the way, the production numbers were a lie. And then there was some way at the end where either because of seasonal flooding and some of the logs there was some place where they could make it all up at the end, and the whole thing, okay, Lisa's, she's nodding her head, and everybody was able to cover themselves and like they were doing their job because somehow they worked it out, But when that didn't happen, people would get shot in those situations, And that's what happens in our organizations. Like if I'm a bad leader and I find out that, Taya's doing something because behind my back for some other department, and then I go and what? How? I told you not to do this. How on earth can you do that? You're fired. You're a bad person. Why would you do that? If I respond that way, all I'm teaching that person is to do it without getting caught, right? I'm proving that we're a dysfunctional organization when I respond in that manner, okay? And I want us to run functioning organizations. So again, this is just some of the pitfalls of these sort of some of these relationships that happen sort of on the horizontal, which we're all for, again, under what we said on the last slide here, in the context of policy, covering, and proper organizational thinking. Okay? Now we go over to relationship number B. And this is where someone who's working for me is talking to someone who is above me in the organization. Okay? And so just to give you, to frame the question a certain way, in my office, I've got Tutti, Taya, Debbie, Yulia. I got Karen and Pam also. They work out in the main reception, but help us out also. Just think about this question in the abstract. Do I want Pastor Schaller talking to people in my department? Okay? Is that a plus or is it a minus? And then the other person over me in the organization is Pastor Lange. Do I want Pastor Lange talking to people in my department? Is it a plus or is it a minus? I think when we ask the question that way, I think everybody in this room would agree, of course, I would be very, very happy to have those conversations going on. Do I want Pastor Lange knowing what we do in the finance office? Of course I do. I'm very happy about that. Very proud of what we do, I think, in a godly sense. If there's something we're doing that I shouldn't be proud of and he finds out about it, by all means help me. That's wonderful. Okay, so in some sense, we're totally for those relationships, and in a healthy organization, we would want them going on. What can be unhealthy in those situations is the following, is if this person right here has a problem with me as the boss, and she, in my case, goes to the person over me because of a problem with me, would I expect this person up here to listen? I would expect him to give a hearing. What I would not expect would be for him to draw a conclusion. Okay? What I would not expect would be for him to draw a conclusion. What I would expect would be to him listen respectfully and to say back to this person down here, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. I will look into it. And then the next stop would be for my boss to come to me and say, this is what I'm hearing from this person who works for you. Okay? What do you think of it? Okay? And then we would have a discussion. Maybe all three of us would get in the same room. But this is, get this, especially leaders, when you hear one side of the matter, you never know having only heard one side of the matter. And you, if you listen to one side of the matter and draw a conclusion based on this, you will lose. And if you teach people that you're going to make a decision based on hearing one side of the matter, then they will become people who make that type of decisions, and your whole organization will cease to function well. Marriage counseling, you hear from the wife, and you know what? Until I have this other person in the room, I have no idea what's going on. And it's just amazing how you watch Judge Judy, how two people can stand there in a room and talk about the same situation with two totally different stories. Usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that's the first thing, and then the second thing, if my boss is talking to this person down here, and hears from the person about a problem that she's having with me, and he's unable to deal with me on it, that is, I'm not saying you can never live with those situations, but if my boss has to communicate to the person down below me, there's nothing I can do. I'm aware of that situation. There's nothing I can do about it. Then the person who's below me really is faced with a choice at that point in time, which is either continue working in the conditions I'm working in, or find a new venue, or leave. I'm not going to work for that person anymore. What cannot be done is that discussion starts spreading throughout the organization, where it becomes a known fact that Pastor Taggart's a bad boss, and everybody just has to put up with him day in and day out, and we're just going to live with it because we cannot make a move. Okay? And that's kind of what I'm encouraging on our organizations. There's no perfect manager, no perfect administrator, no perfect employee. But if we put someone in a situation, and day in and day out, people have to eat, what is wrong with this person, okay? And it becomes a known fact, we do this because we love this person, and we all know this about that person. That's an unhealthy organization. If there's anything you can do about it, you want to take action. Yes, sir, Grant. Let's get the mic over there. Thank you, sir.
Would it be wrong for the person that's under you? Of course, the first step, they go to you and say, look, I have this problem with you. And then you say, okay, well, I'll talk to my supervisor about it. And then, what if you don't do that and the problem is still there? Then is it okay for them to go above you and go to the supervisor that's over you
Yeah, I think not only okay, I'm saying those venues for communication must exist. People have to have recourse. I could be a bad guy, and I am not God to the, eventually they're going to get to the top of the organization. There's nowhere left to go. When you're at the pastor or the board, you're at the end of the line, take it or leave it, whatever their answer is. So yeah, there is a final, a word there, and it's over. But I don't want people in my organization, who work under me, thinking or treating me as if, I'm the final word on it. I want the covering. And we'll talk about this again when we get to affiliated churches. We'll cover this in a very similar way. But it's like it's possible for me to think like when this label B communication is going on, I may think that that's undermining me, but in fact that is making me as a leader stronger if our organization is working properly, because I know the guy above me, he's not covering my errors. He's not allowing me to continue in dysfunction, but he's going to hold me up. He's going to speak to the person below me. I'm going to try and help you with this problem. And it may be a problem that she's spoken to me about 5 times and I haven't understood or haven't responded to, but it's a real problem for her. Thank God I got a guy over me who can help me with this stuff. And this has actually happened to me. I see your hand, Grant. I'm going to get to you, but this has happened to me a few times. Maybe once, maybe twice, where in the last 6 years, where people that have worked for me have gone to Pastor Lange because things were not going well. It comes right back to my office. I didn't lose my job. It wasn't anything serious like that, but it was more like I've got to help. I had a person over me to help us work through a problem that we could not solve on our own, and it's the healthiest thing in the world. And we're all afraid of exposure. We all want to think that we're like the most wonderful people in the world. We never want what we do to come into question. But you just change that. Like with a decision, how I think about myself, we just change that. I don't know what I'm doing. I need all the help I can get. The only reason I'm here is by the grace of God. I can't believe I do anything. I can't believe they pay me to do this. Every day I wake up, it's like a dream. Please help me. Am I doing anything wrong? Show me, because I am so weak in this thing. And someone come to my aid before the whole thing implodes here. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Also, like the example you gave, if Pastor Schaller came, is it good to talk to him? What if somebody that's above you comes and says, "Hey, how is your boss doing? How's he treating you? Do you have any problems?" Should that just be brushed aside, or should they honestly answer and say, "Look, I have this big problem with him"?
Yeah, and that is organizations have personnel offices. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I look at that as like an office that's serving the organization to help exactly with the type of communications you're talking about, where people have annual reviews and this type of stuff can come out so we can catch these things. I would be a leader, if at all possible, where the communication is so open and so free and so clear and so uncharged that you are doing everything you can to catch this stuff before it needs to go to somebody else. Now, if it goes to somebody else, that doesn't mean you failed. But I'm just saying, if you're meeting with people on a regular basis, if you're having personal meetings, meet early often. If someone's working for me and I'm unhappy about something, I should tell them that on day one instead of waiting until it reaches a point. And then the other side of it, the communication should be so open with the people who are working for me that they're free to tell me these things. And I would say in my office, I've probably gotten a little bit familiar with that. I'm probably not very doing the job I ought to be doing. But to be honest with you, over the years, I kind of beg people, tell me what I can do better, and they refuse to tell me. So I don't know. Either they're lying to me, or we're doing okay. I just don't know what that is. And now, but there's also, unfortunately, sometimes in an organization, there are other situations where you do lose confidence in a certain department. That just happens. That will happen to you. You know what I'm saying? You put someone in charge of, I don't know, the coffee bar after church, and things are not going well, and people are unhappy, and sometimes you got to reach down into the organization, ask them, I got people 2 layers below me. I'm talking to this guy here who's telling me things are fine. I got it. Things are beautiful. Everyone's happy. And I just got a sense that things are not that way. I got to go someone and just ask them frankly what's happening, And, usually at that point, you're contemplating taking this person, just doing what we call making a change, because of it. Again, generally speaking, in the church, if this is how we think about it. If people are gifted to do what they're doing, they're going to be doing it. It's rare, in my opinion, that you're going to take someone, they're really not functioning well in a job at all, but your management skill is going to help them function well in the job. I just haven't seen a lot of that. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. Maybe there's some bona fide problem they're having that you can step in and point it out to them. If you just do this better, life will become beautiful. And sometimes it goes that way. But more often than not, it's about really good personnel placement. Finding the person who's gifted to do it, getting them into the place, and then all the stuff we're talking about is, helping the right person be a success and keeping making a successful organization as happy as it can be and be more successful. Rather than, can you take a success and make them into a failure? In the church, yes. Organizationally, maybe. Like I say, I think it's more about putting people, where they belong than it is putting them, where something totally is not working and pulling it out of the fire. And in fact, you're going to cause yourself, you're going to give yourself a lot of gray hair, and maybe this will come up again, but just while we're on this subject, because it's coming to my mind. You can end up like, I have this statement where like I overestimate the value of my investment. Now, on a personal body level, that's not what I'm talking about. In the church, I'm investing in people, of course, but I'm talking organizationally. Okay, I've got someone who can't sing, who wants to sing, and I let him sing, and it doesn't go so well. But hey, if we give him some voice lessons, and I have my whole life involved with this, trying to help this person sing, and I'm afraid if I stop it, if I give up on them, it's like I failed, and I don't want to be a failure, so I keep on, in a sense, I'm throwing good money after bad, and you don't want to be in a situation where you get so much invested in someone who shouldn't be there, trying to make them a success, that you just burn up a lot of time, and really you're kidding yourself and everybody else. So these are some of these, horizontal and like vertical, multi-level vertical relationships. You want to be aware of the benefits of them and the pitfalls of them, okay? For the middle manager, it's a great covering, but if people in the organization are lying to each other, afraid they can't tell them the truth because someone's going to be offended or because they'll think they're not loved, and you start working around people and telling people, Wesley, Mike Vieta's a jerk, you got to put up with him because, that's what Pastor Schaller wants. That type of statement, it's just not a healthy organization, because then Wesley talks to the guy next to him, and there we go. And we're all lying to each other now, and I'm telling Mike he's a great leader and telling the people under him he's not. Like, what is that? How does that happen? Was your hand up? Yeah. Let's send the mic over, and this will probably be the final home stretch of the night here.
Yeah, this is more of a general administrative question. I caught that statement where you said there's no perfect administrator, but you do have some that are better than others, right?
Yes.
And does a healthy, a well-run organization reflect the leadership? That's not the question I want to ask. Another thing is, what separates people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Donald Trump from the rest of other administrators? What's special about them?
I know Steve Jobs is not alive, The first thing I want to say, the question is, you've got these, world-class superstar entrepreneurs, and I'll say a few things. First of all, what separates them from everybody else is the grace of God. God has put them in that situation. And I don't want to encourage anybody here that you can read, the books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and start doing those things and become those people. If God has not graced you for that, it may be totally the grace of God that that you're in that situation. You know what I'm saying? So that's sort of like our underlying thing. I believe God gives gifts to the body as He will, not according to all this gifts and ability. Second thing I would say, and I hope I don't get in trouble on this one, is that Donald Trump inherited his money. Okay, he had a huge head start. His father was a real estate mogul in New York City, and so Donald had this huge head start. And what he is he is a marketing genius, and what he's marketing is himself. Okay, he puts himself out there. He puts his name out there. He associates his name with excellence. Whether it's great to work for him, I don't know. I don't know what that's like. I've read, Bill Gates was like a genius. He saw what nobody, and Steve Jobs, same thing. They saw what nobody else saw in terms of where the market was heading with these devices. And I know that, I don't know what it's like later in life, but in the early days, from what I read, I'm pretty sure it was Bill Gates, was like an absolute slave driver. Like he was working people 70 and 80 hours a week and just demanding that from people. But what really kept him there was not that he was this great manager, it's that they wanted to be a part of the vision that he had. Okay? And that's where we are. Everybody wants to be part of this vision. You know what I'm saying? We're holding up the Word of God. People love God, they love soul winning, they love missions. They want to be part of the vision. But I don't want you guys, I don't want us to be people that people stay in our organization because they love God, they love the message, and they put up with you and me being bad managers for the sake of the vision. I think maybe Bill Gates could have been a better manager than he was, from what little I've read. I haven't read the book, and I know that Steve Jobs is very difficult to work with too. And then the third thing is, maybe I'm not like a great manager, but I don't need to be a great manager. Okay, if I'm gonna be a pastor, I don't need to have any of these skills. I just need to be able to spot people who have these skills and let them do what they're able to do. You know what I'm saying? And you might have in an organization, here I am at the top. I got this person over here, and I love the way he treats people. He gets the job done. People are very happy working under him. And then I got someone over here, and he's an absolute tyrant. Okay? But for whatever reason, his organization does what I need him to do, and I just don't care. I probably wouldn't do that in the church, but if I was running a business somewhere and I had a guy who was able to run a certain department and make it work, I might let it go on a long time before I shoot my business. I got to find someone who can replace that guy, because the whole organization is depending on him doing his job. So that's the guys. These superstars may not be all round. They may be very good at some things and very, very weak in other things. And you want to look behind the scenes to see what that is. So I would encourage you to read those books and just see what that is. But I cannot will myself to become the next great American entrepreneur. Yes, sir.
I think a big thing is like the motivation of those guys. Like we're in the body of Christ, like our system, our organization is in the body of Christ. And like our goal is not to like get our name in the paper.
Right.
Here like Steve Jobs and Donald Trump and like Bill Gates, we're like, oh, these great names, but like that's not our goal. Our goal isn't to be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Our goal is to be like Christ,
right?
Who is not what is nothing. Like we are zero, and like it's total like selfishness compared to selflessness. Like I don't want my name associated with this huge mogul that like totally treated people bad and like was a slave driver. like working people 70, 80 hours a week for what? Just to be number one? Like, who cares? Like, that's not our goal. Our goal is to glorify God. And even if it's our church organization, that's our main goal.
Yeah. Now, just to balance that a little bit, because I put some names out there, I know that, later, I understand, just to balance it, because I know this goes around the world, I know that, I understand that Microsoft is a very nice place to work. They got all the stuff, the gymnasiums and childcare and all that belonging. So people can people learn and can change, and I've learned very much the hard way, like decades of mistakes, and then finally lights going on, like this ain't working so well. I'm going to do it different, and then oh my gosh, it still works. I thought I would lose people's respect. I thought, and instead I get more respect. It's like amazing, So it's 9:00. I think we've had a good night tonight. Okay, so let's dismiss this class. And Angina, you're going to email me and just remind me about how we're going to do this midterm.